Alright, we are recording. So it was in chapter 9 of this. That too. Hey, I actually got it right. My first try. Let me adjust that. There we go. Okay, so this one's interesting. Not necessarily just because of storytelling stuff, although there is a little bit there. But because it challenges something that I've been told for so long, and maybe it's a lie. And that's okay, because, it's more interesting that it is, something that continues. Do 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 do. After gesturing for the Wookiee to take up a position where he could cover the elevator, Solo took a deep breath and responded to the unceasing calls from the comlink. Everything's under control, he said into the pickup, sounding reasonably official. Situation normal. Didn't sound like that. What happened? The boy snapped back in a no-nonsense tone. Well, one of the guards experienced a weapon malfunction. So Solo stammered, his temporary officialese lapsing into nervousness. No problem now, we're all fine, thanks. How about you? We're setting up your squad. It's negative. We have an energy leak. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. Large leak, very dangerous. Weapons malfunction, energy leak, who is this? What's your operating? And, Solo blows away the instrumentation. It was a dumb conversation anyway. Hey, hurry up, Luke, we're going to have company. I have been told for so much of my life that Harrison Ford ad-libbed when he was talking to the communicator. But it's in the book that was published a year prior to the movie coming out. Now, I looked. I looked on my desktop, which is over here. And apparently, this was published in November of 1976. Production on the movie started in March 1976, so technically there was overlap. And also, just to be clear, the copyright given is 1976. It is there is no later copyright for Star Wars. Okay, which means that it should not have been edited. Now, technically, something like the prologue could have been added on later. I could believe that. Maybe not. I'm not sure where it would necessarily count, but because this is in the text itself for the book, and there is no revised copyright date here, that tells me this is what was originally written, okay? It's not been edited. And it's also the whole, okay, so maybe it was, yes, they were already filming and they liked those lines, so they put them in. They liked the ad-libs, so they put them in. Okay, let's say that's true. Why is R2 so different? Right, he's described consistently as having 3 legs instead of having the 2 legs in the wheel and wheels under all of them. Right, he climbs basically. I mean, they do refer to him actually like using them as legs, not a tripod type thing. Okay, and there are other changes as well, including in the chapter itself. Luke uses his blaster to blow open the door instead of opening it. The one to get to Leia instead of it just opening, he blows it open. Luke is the last one to jump into the trash compactor, whereas in the movie, Han is the last, and when he gets down there, he shoots the door, and they're like, no, wait! Because they had already tried and knew that the pulse would bounce around. That is in here, the bouncing around is, but when Luke gets in there, Han tries it for the first time. No one warns him, because no one knew yet. Very different. So why would they take the lines there, but not those? Okay, not these other changes that really would make sense to have in here. Also, another is in the book, Luke does not forget about the comlink. So, like in the movie, when you are when the trash compactor, because yes, this chapter does cover that. It's basically from when they have left the gantry office to take Chewie to the detention area until the trash compactor has been overcome. They've had R2 shut them down. That's the span of the book. Sorry, not the span of the book, span of the chapter. Yeah, that's right. One in the trash compactor, it's like Luke is like, oh wait, that's right, I have the comlink, I can try to talk. That in the movie, it's clear he was like forgetting that because he's under so much stress. Here, no, he basically just goes and grabs it very early on in the crushing, so it's bit different there. And maybe that's to build up the tension, but it's also why they do try to build up the tension in here as well. So why not have it be he was forgetting, then it's like, oh, I just remembered I have this. You could have done that very easily. Could have had a single line there, just like the whole Luke making instant decisions is a single line. I'm not letting that one go. I am never going to let that one go, at least for the length of this specific book. I mean, the specific story, I guess, within this book. Anyway, I'm just checking because I want to talk about both of these points, but this one I'll talk about first. One thing that I do find a little comforting, because I've mentioned before that one of my weaknesses is I'm not very necessarily good at describing a scene. And technically happens in here as well. Because even though this does go to some effort to describe what the detention area looks like, which does sound different from what's in the movie, but that's fine. I mean, it's not that important there. But what they do not do in here is describe the contents of the trash compactor, but they become very relevant. It's just now suddenly there are these metal beams that they are putting, which I've always kind of wondered about, at least whenever I became conscious of the fact that, why are there metal beams in this trash? I mean, the trash compactor really doesn't make any sense in other ways, but it's like, for one thing, it's a grate which they had to blow open. Were they able to open it normally and just throw things down there? But it's like, who's throwing metal beams in there? Where are these coming from? I mean, even if it is, well, the Death Star is still under construction, why would you throw metal beams in the trash? When you're doing construction, you would have a different mechanism there, and you wouldn't have it in there with the liquid refuse, which is there. I was like, why are they there? And they're just suddenly there when they need them. So I'm not going to consider that like a Deus Ex Machina type thing. It technically is, but nah, I mean, it's more of a, why are they there? Not I guess I am kind of stuck on that one, aren't I? It is kind of Deus Ex Machina. There's no explanation for them being there. It just doesn't bother me too much, especially since those are not what saved them. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, let's do that one first. Of these other 2 points, Vader refers to Kenobi once he's basically decided that yes, what he felt in the previous chapter was Kenobi being around. That he was sensing his force presence. That's what Vader was feeling. Whereas I'm pretty sure in the movie it is he just has the line of, "I've not felt this presence before he leaves the Millennium Falcon." Okay. Yeah, because in this, the scene is when he decides it is him reporting to Tarkin, and is telling Tarkin that this is the case. In the movie, he does report to Tarkin that I'm sensing his presence, and Tarkin's like, that's not possible, he's dead already. So in the book, it is a little different, where it's not until he's actually with Tarkin that he decides, yes, it was Kenobi he was sensing. Anyway, that's not the point I want to talk about. No, what I wanted to talk about was Vader refers to him as the strongest of all Jedi, the greatest of all Jedi. Now, we know that that's not true once you get out into the other books. Other stories, I should say. In just the next one, Yoda is a greater master than Obi-Wan Kenobi is. And then also, when you get into the prequels, I guess he would be considered at the level of a Jedi Master, but there were greater masters than he is. Now, the reason why I made note of this, want to talk about it, is it kind of annoys me. It's like, we don't need him to be the greatest. I mean, I get they're reinforcing the point of, you look at Kenobi and he's not that impressive, so it's easy to be kind of dismissive of this crazy old kook. I get that. But it's also why does he have to be the greatest? I'm saying he could just be a powerful one. He could just be, Vader recognizing that he's who trained me. I'm saying even that would be enough. You could just do that. You don't need to make him the greatest. But it is a sort of contrivance that I don't doubt that I've committed previously, and I probably will commit it in the future when telling a story where you just decide, yes, this character, you're just going to elevate them. Just make them more and more powerful, more and more important. Even though it's not really necessary, but it might be, you just want to do it. And I can't fault that, but it is something I'm noticing. Now, the other thing I want to talk about, because this, I even mentioned it however far back. I might actually be able to scroll up, I'm not going to bother, to see what chapter it was in. When Luke fainted to the sand person, because the sand person is there and is threatening them, and Luke is like, I don't know what to do. It's like there's nothing he really can do, so he just faints. Not that it was a conscious decision, but he does faint. And I know I made a comment in the notes. I know I talked about how I was looking forward to seeing that be a setup that's then paid off. It isn't. At least not yet, and there was a moment for it. Because, I mean, if this is a guy, he's still younger at 20, faints in the face of a sand person, who is threatening his life, okay? Now, he has just killed a man, okay? Because when they first get to the detention cell, and for one thing, it's not, in the book, it is not as set up, like, in the movie, you've got the whole, they couldn't actually lock the restraints on Chewie. His wrists were too big. No. Han actually releases him and whispers something to him. So it was more a seat of the pants, but Han is telling Chewie to do this, as opposed to that was kind of sort of the plan to begin with. Kind of sort of. That you see in the movie. The Imperial officer there is just reaching to get onto the comlink to broadcast an alarm, and Luke shoots and kills him. We have no reason to believe that Luke has at any time killed a human being, or even something like a human. We don't know if he's ever killed a Jabba. We don't know if he's ever killed a Tusken Raider. The fact that he fainted in front of one makes me think he never has. So we went from that, which is supposed to be like, 2 or 3 days earlier? I mean, a day passed. Well, there was at least a night. Like, I'm pretty sure Luke... No. That was the same day. So it was the same day that Luke went searching for R2, to then him discovering that Uncle Onan had been killed. Comes back, so then they go to Mos Eisley. And then they would have shortly taken off. So that's all technically within the same 24-hour period. We don't know how long they were necessarily in hyperspace going to Alderaan. So let's say that is another day that they did sleep there. That means we're talking about 2 days ago, he fainted. Now, he just killed a man who technically was not a physical threat to him, was just trying to hit an alarm. Yes, a threat, but, not necessarily somebody that you need to kill, per se. I mean, it's... Han, obviously, no problem doing that. He's a survivor. He's already killed Greedo, who was definitely being more of a physical immediate threat to him. But Han's going to be fine, because he understands the scenario. He's got that. We have no reason to believe Luke would be comfortable with this, but there's not even him pausing and considering what he has done now, and what this means for him personally. I mean, technically, there is also the whole, oh crap, I am officially an outlaw to the Empire. I'm saying there's not even something like that. Nothing at all. And I'm disappointed by that. Because I don't feel that that's very consistent with the character. Now, there's still time, maybe it'll come later, but there was a moment there, because things hadn't yet hit the fan yet, that you could have still had him just pause and spent a paragraph, maybe 2, of him just reflecting on the scene, like looking down at the body and seeing what he has done before going to get Leia. And even Han going, what's wrong? And some of that, nothing, and then he goes. You could have done something. But they didn't, and I do consider that a wasted opportunity. Because he had a setup that he is still very young. He is still figuring things out. And now he's comfortable killing. I mean, it's... And this was a personal killing. Like, they were there. This isn't him destroying the TIE fighters. That'll be in a chapter or 2 or whatever. When they're fleeing, where he's not seeing his enemy. And also the enemy is shooting back at him. And it's not like, blowing up the Death Star, which again is he's not seeing his enemy there and they are attacking him. And he also knows the stakes. It's like, it's not that. This was just do that. And the first time he's doing this. So that it is personal. And it's like nothing. Yeah, I was hoping for more. That really is what it is. I'm just disappointed. Because I think they could have done better. But we'll see, because it's still... Will we see because as I've described before, he's running away. After seeing his home destroyed, he's running away. Technically, he should still kind of be in that mindset. Things are getting over his head now, so he's just doing. I'm fine with that. But will there be some reflection, like when on the Millennium Falcon and they're leaving, like before the TIE fighters appear, or maybe after? Because when you think about it, in the movie, there's a lot of just boom, 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 as far as they get to the Rebel base and that just this happens, this happens. And in the book, you could have time in between where he is reflecting, maybe even like he runs into Biggs, and because he does meet Biggs there, but starts talking to him. Like maybe finding out, how did you find the rebellion? How did you find the rebellion? And then also, what happened. That could be a moment as well. I make sense that not. I make sense. No, it makes sense that that's not in the movie. I'm okay with that. But this isn't a movie you can spend the time. So I'm hoping the time will have been spent. But I also, I have my doubts, because this, you could have spent a paragraph or two, just as I described. And it's also, this is a relatively short chapter. Other chapters have been like 20 pages. The previous one was like 30. This one's only like 15. So they could have, it's not like, oh, well, we got to cut down. No, they could have done that. So yeah, next chapter, I'm assuming, lined with power cables and circuitry is literally the first line. We're going to be following Obi-Wan as he shuts down the tractor beam. It'll probably also have them actually out of the trash compactor trying to get back to the Millennium Falcon. Will it end with Kenobi's death? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see that. We'll see. I can believe that it will, just because that's a good finale to a chapter, and then moving on to the next thing. But, yeah. That's about it. I am still enjoying this, but it is... Going back, I find that whole ad-lib thing very interesting. And that does also remind me of something. I mean, this is certainly... When looking it up, it does say it is this was based on the screenplay. Which is also, again, if it's a screenplay that's based on, then screenplays are typically done before the scripts are done before you're filming. So it's, again, the whole, that seems to not be an ad-lib based on this book. And it does kind of remind me, in the movie Terminator 2, towards the end, the Terminator has a line about, I need a vacation. And a lot of people actually think of that as an ad-lib, because it is the kind of joke that Schwarzenegger would be known to deliver in such a moment. But one thing that I don't remember where it was. Somebody made the point, no, we actually know it's not, because it is in the novelization, which would indicate it was written, and he just delivered a line. I mean, I don't know. Presumably, then the novelization does predate that movie as well, but just to make the point that there are some things where it can seem like it's an ad-lib, but no, it was just good and effective writing. So yeah, so I do find that very interesting. Now, of course, there are others that would be... I'm curious. Okay, let me just look. Let me just look here at the copyrights here. 1980 for The Empire Strikes Back. Okay. So, when... I'm just going to pause it, because I don't... That'll just make things a little easier. Okay, so looking at Empire Strikes Back, that released the movie... But both the movie and the book released in 1980. The movie released May 21st. Apparently, the book was first published on, in paperback at least, on April 12th. So about a month prior. Okay, so that is interesting. So it will be interesting to see what in there is... we also see his ad-libs on, because there is, famously the I know from Han, that was widely reported as an ad-lib, so we'll see if it was in here, if it ends up being in here or not. Because, I mean, definitely, by The Empire Strikes Back, it's like, okay, we have a series here, or at least the potential for one, so that I'm sure we're going to start seeing things retconned, but chances are less of Empire will be retconned by Return of the Jedi. Yeah, so will be interesting to see how that ends up going, but that's going to be a ways away. But yeah, it's definitely, though, what isn't an ad-lib anymore? I'm starting to question things, man. All right. See you next time for chapter 10.